Ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic Socialists could not be further out of sync with the values of communities. And I'm beginning to be convinced that socialism must be another word, a synonym for comedy, because whenever I hear or see or read about their communist agenda, I just can't help but laugh out loud.
Every door knock and every phone call is a statement of belief that politics is for all of us. This campaign and this city is all of ours to shape.
That's Tasha Van Auken, and she joins us now in our New York studio.
You know, it's funny how you keep talking about a city for all of us when your movement helped make New York unaffordable for anyone outside your activist bubble. Knocking doors doesn't change the fact your policies drove families out while chaos moved in. And City Hall won't be for all of us. It'll be for the hijab wearing, same ideological clique that broke the place. Meanwhile, Gunther Eagleman asks, if you think Mamdani should be deported, like this post. And, hey Grok, can you translate this into socialism speak? And I will read to you now the response that says, Tasha ignited the proletarian vanguard, empowering comrades to shatter bourgeois isolation through door-to-door agitation, telephonic mobilization, and forging solidarity pacts with the toiling masses. United in class struggle, we seize the urban commons for the collective. Henceforth, we collectivize City Hall as a people's Soviet, redistributing power from the elite to the workers. Yeah. But how about, no. What you did was lie to people about giving them free stuff. Now they're finding out that you did indeed lie and won't be able to do your socialism. And so you see, Tasha will play a huge role in the economic decline of NYC from overtaxation and regulation. She'll strain public services by Mamdani's unfunded mandates. But in 2029, New Yorkers will thank Tasha for the voter backlash and common sense mayor that will clean up her mess. That being the massive economic decline from overtaxation and regulation, driving businesses and talent out of NYC, much like San Francisco's post-Prop 13 exodus. Public services strained by unfunded mandates leading to garbage piles, subway delays, and rising crime as police morale tanks. Ultimately, a voter backlash by 2029, installing a pragmatic mayor to clean up the mess socialism's cycle of promise and peril repeats. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, the Democratic Socialists could not be further out of sync with the values of communities. And I'm beginning to be convinced that socialism must be another word, a synonym for comedy. Because whenever I hear or see or read about their communist agenda, I just can't help but to laugh out loud. But this isn't a joke, and I'm not laughing at the poor New Yorkers who all will be hurt by what's coming. But sorry, not sorry. And for instance, or example, the mayor-elect Mamdani hopes to raise the corporate tax of NYC to match New Jersey's 11.5%. And needless to say, but that would move New York from the 17th highest state corporate tax in the nation to tie for number one. And let me be abundantly clear here and completely honest with you, as I always am. But Zoran Mamdani's push to jack up New York's corporate tax rate to 11.5%, matching New Jersey's punishing top marginal rate, isn't bold leadership. It's a reckless experiment that ignores history, economics, and the brutal math of NYC's spiraling deficits, with shortfalls exploding to $4.7 billion in 2026, $10.3 billion in 2027, and $12.6 billion in 2028. likely based on best case projections. So think about it. Things could be much, much worse. But no matter what, you cannot tax your way out of structural black holes. Every cent raided from corporations gets passed straight to middle and working class New Yorkers through skyrocketing prices, slashed jobs, and businesses bolting to low tax states like Florida and Texas. Mamdani's $9 billion revenue pipe dream is nothing more than a delusional fantasy. Corporations don't absorb the hit, they relocate offshore or shrink. Why do you think New Jersey's 11.5% rate is already chasing firms south? Importing that poison would catapult NYC from 17th highest state corporate tax to a dead tie for number one worst in the nation. But I guess this is what you're likely to get when Mamdani's putting heads together with the likes of some of our country's worst when it comes to running or ruining cities, states, leadership, law enforcement, and budgets.
Okay, let's do a topic. So New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani has been consulting with Democratic governors, including Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Mamdani is said to be seeking advice on taking a stand against Trump's threats of immigration raids and National Guard deployments. So is this the smart thing for him to do? And will it make any difference?
I think it's really smart. I think it's smart to surround yourself with people that have experience dealing with this administration, have experience dealing with this president, and also having that coalition of expertise. He's hired an all-female team.
Yeah.
He's kept the police commissioner here. He's keeping the police commissioner here in New York, who has done, by all accounts, a wonderful job. He's hired 200 lawyers in anticipation of what Trump may do. This is someone that is ready to go from day one, and I'm applauding it. I think it's really impressive.
And speaking of terrible budgets, and just watch and see, this is a peek into the window, the looking glass of where NYC will fall down to based on the Democratic Socialist Party's firebrand's awful fiscal policy.
Well, people have gathered here tonight at Harmony Community Church here in Lawndale as they're trying to light the way to fairness with this bonfire and discussion tonight. Many homeowners across Chicago receiving a hefty property tax increase in the mail, and they're all wondering where that money is going.
How can you maintain your home if your taxes are constantly going up?
Homeowners in Lawndale are searching for answers together tonight about their property tax hikes. Community leaders partnered with the Lawndale Christian Development Corporation to host this bonfire, allowing neighbors to discuss their options. One man says he received a bill this week that was $977 more than what he paid last year.
Tax increase is tied to a TIF that I have no idea why. Ogden-Pulaski TIF is collecting money from our neighbors in our streets, but we're not being notified for what or why it's in the bill.
The group discussed a number of solutions for the issue, including an effort to propose new policy, which would be modeled after California's Prop 13. That would limit property taxes to 1% of assessed value, with annual increases capped at 2%. Homeowners are also frustrated because they feel like they're not seeing the tax hikes lead to notable investment in their neighborhoods.
There's been a divestment in this community for the most part, but it seems like now that people have found an interest in reclaiming the neighborhood, now it's like we're being taxed for prosperity.
Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas also spoke earlier today on the tax bills while at a Rainbow Push event. She says there are new avenues for homeowners to pay these bills at their own pace.
You do not have to pay your bill on December 15th. Did you hear that? You don't have to pay it. Let me tell you why. We went to Springfield last year and set up a payment plan.
Pappas says you could go online on December 16th and find payment plans for up to 13 months. That's welcome news to these homeowners, but they still want some clarity on those tax hikes.
We understand utilities are going up and things of that nature, but it's a valuation issue. Like we don't have schools we need, there's economics that aren't here, but we're being charged to pay for economics in other people's communities.
Now, some people here tell us they haven't even received their property tax bills yet, but we are told that those are going out around Chicago throughout this week.
Yes, folks, you heard that right. Tonight, Chicago residents are having a property tax bonfire after they received their new property tax bills that have increased significantly. Some residents reporting their bills have increased $977 from last year. All the while, Democrats again increased property taxes due to budget shortfalls. And yes, there's that nasty word again. But meanwhile, residents complain of rising assessments, and more importantly, they say despite property taxes increase, there's no notable improvements being made on their city. Let me repeat that. But while residents complaining of rising assessments, and more importantly, they say despite property taxes increasing, there's no notable improvements being made in their city. As I live and breathe, New York City voted for this grift, a legalized socialist tax-based money grab and laundering, and I just hate it. I hate it for all the folks who didn't want this and don't deserve it, but this is what they have coming and possibly to look forward to, or better yet, brace and prepare for come Jan 1. Now, mind you, Eric Adams kept the city functional by attracting investment, not repelling it with DSA socialist lab tests that treat the Big Apple like a guinea pig, nor did Mayor Eric Adams threaten to unlawfully arrest a sitting head of state for religious reasons of conflict.
Hey, New York, once again, I'm traveling to Israel to meet with governmental officials, tech leaders, and economic development strategists. But we also want to talk about how do we come together to end the globalized anti-Semitism that we're witnessing take place not only here in New York, but across the globe. We know hate has no place in our country and in other countries across the globe. I'm looking forward to having great conversations and meetings and see how we bring back industry, particularly tech, to our great city of New York. We're going to have a safe trip and a productive journey. Thank you.
Resounding sentiment across social media, and people are saying things like, Zoran is such a downgrade. Going from Mayor Eric Adams, who stands against anti-Semitism against Jews in Israel, to Mamdani, who refused multiple times to condemn calls to globalize the Intifada and doesn't think that Israel should exist. It's truly heartbreaking. John called chapter and got a new policy at almost half the cost as I would have paid if I had stayed with my current insurer. Teresa and her hubby just signed up with chapter and told me how Mr. Getz was very helpful, answered all of their questions, and made her feel comfortable saying yes. Sign me up. And we are now part of the chapter family. And I have hundreds, possibly thousands of these comments to read, just like this one here. Call chapter. They really help you. I did. 3 hearts emojis. Medicare made simple. Chapter asked the right questions and listened to my concerns. Sign up was super simple, and now we can enjoy retirement. And that was from Hank, a very happy chapter member. AEP started October 15th, and you have a once-a-year opportunity to update your Medicare plan to one that fits your needs. And we have partnered with Chapter, an independent Medicare advisor, to provide free Medicare support to all of you wonderful subscribers of my channel. Their team will help you find a plan that aims to keep your doctors in network, covers your prescriptions, and works for your care needs and budget. Don't miss out on potential savings or better coverage. Call 270-467-2426 today to speak with a chapter advisor. Start 2026 with coverage you trust. Chapter has already provided so many of my subscribers with free and complete Medicare guidance. Call Chapter today, 270-467-2426 for your free plan review and quickly find out whether a new plan could offer you substantial savings, better benefits, or improved coverage. Then it's easy enrollment if you choose to change your plan, and Chapter will help take care of the paperwork so you don't have to, taking another burden off of your plate and lightening your load, reducing weight off of your back, taking it off of your shoulders, and they are there for you whenever you need them with free year-round support. So If you need to find a doctor in network or have a question about your plan later on, learn more and use the free helpful links in the description and or call the number on your screen. Just remember, Chapter is here to help you make the most of your benefits.
Now listen to this. New York City Councilwoman Ina Vernikov has invited Benjamin Netanyahu to New York City on January the 1st. That is the day of Zoran Mamdani's inauguration. Well, the Councilwoman is here joining us in New York City. And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Why'd you invite him?
That is to expose him for the fraud that he is, because Zoran Mamdani is a scam. The mayor of New York City has no legal authority to arrest a sitting prime minister. In fact, it is illegal. The United States is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, which created ICC, which has a warrant out for his arrest. It is essentially a kangaroo court. And it's just, he's going to become the laughingstock when the prime minister comes here and he can't arrest him.
Mamdani, a laughingstock. Get used to hearing that name and those words in tandem a lot more as we approach Inauguration Day and in the days and weeks after January 1. His term and tenure as mayor may be short-lived as there's ample action being taken and plenty going on behind the scenes that could even make it so he never takes or holds office in the Big Apple. But we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But a little bit of a history lesson here. And folks, let's talk about how the UK's 1970s nightmare is the blueprint Mamdani's blindly copying. Corporate taxes over 50%, top personal rates at 83% earned and 98% unearned. And the outcome and end results? Capital fled overnight. Factories shuttered. Entrepreneurs escaped to Switzerland. Foreign cash vanished. Inflation roared to 24%. GDP flatlined in the British disease, and the IMF forced a humiliating bailout. Then Thatcher slashed rates to ignite recovery. And folks, high taxes didn't empower workers. They crushed them with unemployment at 13% and real wages are in free fall. NYC's top 1% already shouldered 40 to 45% of all personal income taxes. But if you allow the mayor to drive them out with this class warfare lunacy, well, then let me just ask you, who do you think funds Mamdani's free everything utopia then? Don't believe the hype. And we mustn't ignore the quiet parts being shouted out loud right now, as it only took a mere few minutes after the ballots closed and votes tallied for the South Asian or Ugandan Islamist of Muslim faith to come out and say it. All right, folks, party is over. Now we need your money and donations. But if you want a beer, that'll be $13 plus tax. And it isn't just history repeating itself, but sometimes it rhymes. And like I said, capital fled overnight, factories shuttered, entrepreneurs escaped to Switzerland, foreign cash vanished, inflation roared to 24%, GDP flatlined. But meanwhile, the Swiss still attempting to stop mass exodus because even the famously neutral, banker-friendly Swiss, those guardians of discreet wealth and alpine stability, are staring down the barrel of a socialist-fueled millionaire meltdown, all in the name of fair climate funding. And picture this, a young socialist in Switzerland echoing the same siren song of redistribution that we've heard from Zoran Mamdani's playbook, rammed through a landmark referendum initiative back in March of 2024 with a pitch to slap a whopping 50% federal inheritance tax on the states and gifts topping about 50 million Swiss francs. That's about 58 million US. Now, layered on top of the canton's existing levies that can already hit 49.5%. In extreme cases, that's a near 100% confiscation rate, turning family businesses into state souvenirs and heirs into paupers. The goal, they claim, is to bankroll social climate policy, whatever green-tinted euphemism that cloaks for funneling billions into vague eco projects while preaching equality. Stay tuned and locked in. With the votes slated for November 30, Just 2 weeks from now, and early polls scream rejection. Only 31% in favor with a 19-point lead for the no camp. And business titans are howling apocalypse with Peter Spuler, Switzerland's rail magnate, and one of its richest, blasting it as a disaster that could force his heirs to cough up 2 billion Swiss francs. Senior bankers drop the N-word and calls it a nuclear bomb for the economy, warning it'll torch Switzerland's allure as a wealth haven. But the government itself is rallying voters to spike it, fearing an exodus that would make the UK's look like a weekend jaunt. And get this, the irony as to how Switzerland's been the golden escape hatch for UK millionaires fleeing Labour's tax hikes. 16,500 bolted from Britain between 2017 and 2023 alone, with 9,500 more projected to ghost amid whispers of non-dom crackdowns. But get this, if this passes, those same fat cats, your hedge funders, tech moguls, and old money dynasties will scatter to Dubai or Italy, leaving Swiss coffers drier than, let's just say, Letitia James at home all alone on a Friday night. The average worker then gets hammered harder as the Zohran Mamdani socialist system and DSA blueprint sets in. Tax shortfalls mean squeezed businesses, jacked up levies on the middle class, and a vicious cycle of stagnation. Is any of this starting to sound familiar to you? It's the rhyme of history where progressives and their grabs at the top end up triggering flight from the bottom. This isn't some abstract Euro drama. It's a bright, flashing neon warning for not only New York City, but Seattle and Washington too. San Francisco, Chicago, and several other parts of our country, all based on the impending doom, where Zohran Mamdani, the freshly elected Democratic Socialist mayor, set to take the reins on January 1, 2026, is peddling the exact same wrecking ball agenda. Mamdani's victory lap will look more like a full-blown charity case with a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade's worth of free buses, universal childcare for 500,000 kids, at a cool $100 billion tab over a decade, and rent freezes for all stabilized units, tripling public housing to 200,000 union-built rent-capped apartments and a $30 minimum wage, city-owned grocery stores to fight food prices, and phasing out elite programs like gifted kindergartens, all while eyeing hikes on the wealthy to fund it. Oh, but those buses, more than likely they'll be limping along on 4 flat tires, and the universal free childcare will be anything but free. And they're going to have to come up with some scheme to pay for this scam, because not everyone has rich and wealthy parents like, I don't know, Katie Wilson, whose parents will pay for their kids' daycare for them well into adulthood. And as a mayor of a city, newly elected, but still gets an allowance from mommy and daddy. Make that make sense. Critics bracing for the worst from Wall Street to Yale are sounding alarms, and they're all saying this isn't sewer socialism fixing potholes. It is a blueprint for exodus, with CEOs already plotting moves to tax-friendlier spots like Florida and Texas. Oh, and those price controls on rent? Yeah, they've strangled supply before, and New Yorkers, landlords, and tenants should expect black markets, crumbling tenements, and landlords bailing en masse. As for the free everything else shtick, well, that's just code for soaking taxpayers, inflating costs, and chasing away the entrepreneurs who actually create jobs. And pure chaos, of course.
If you're getting approximately 85% of your needs met with food stamps, rent subsidy, Medicare insurance, or Medicaid insurance, if you're getting 85% of your needs met, and then somebody came to you, an employer said, how would you like to work for 40 hours? And you're like, wait, work 40 hours to get 100% or do nothing for 85%. So you're telling me I'm going to work 40 hours for only an addition of 15%. more than I currently have. And you know, people said, I'll stick with 85. And what happened was now there was no way to get them out of that. And so now it almost like imploded. So now you have people that are like, why would I want to work for 15% more? I'm really content.
And I saw this meme here and it speaks volumes to me. And so I'll share it with you all. And it says, there are two ways to make a slave. First, work them without pay, and or then pay them without work. But either way, something has to give and the dams will break. And it leaves me almost utterly speechless, but I have just two words that immediately come to mind: unbelievably and stupid. Listen to Dr. Phil, and he says, I'm telling you now, NYC is heading for a nightmare under Mamdani. This is a real warning for the city as it may be entering its most dangerous chapter with an ideology that could redefine it for the worst.
Chance, et cetera, et cetera. But come on, over hundreds of years, this just has not worked. Why? Because when you have socialism, the idea that we should have a quality of outcome, regardless of the quality of input, it just doesn't make common sense. The reason is there's no incentive. If you work really hard and you have nothing to show for it, it's like the little red hen. If you don't help, then you don't get to eat the bread. And if you work hard and you don't get any reward for that, why work hard if you don't have any chance to better yourself? So you can sit at home in a beanbag eating Cheetos all day, or you can go work 12 hours and bust your butt. You're going to get the same outcome. Who's going to go out and work all day for 12 hours? People are going to sit at home in a beanbag and eat Cheetos. It's the same human principle. You have to have incentives. And one of Mamdani's campaign promises comes right out of the Cold War Soviet Union government-subsidized grocery stores. One in each New York City borough. Sounds great, right? But real early on, you found out that there's only certain stuff you can get, and pretty soon there isn't any of that. And now you got people lined up around the block wanting to get moldy bread and a little bit of cheese. Why? Because you've got a very few people controlling everything, and they take what they want and give everybody else what they don't want. His other campaign promises seem great on the surface until you have to ask the question, who's going to pay for this? So what he
And this one here tells a clear story and paints a very, very vivid picture. As the young lady, the customer and would-be patron who, I got to tell you guys, honestly, if it were me, I would have already just walked out. I would have walked out already, but she's attempting to place an order for food. However, the customer service is being provided by someone in the Philippines, fully remote.
What do I do to order food?
Yes, we have a window in front of you.
Okay, over there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And where are you located right now? Can I ask you?
I'm in the Philippines.
You're in the Philippines? What do you recommend?
We have M4, the M4.
The M4?
The scallion on regular and braised pork loving regular.
Okay. Do people usually tip you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
It's only cheap.
Yeah? Oh, not every time?
It depends on the customer.
And this is what New York City is begging for Zoran to give them. Or worse, this. Breaking news. Communist Zoran Mamdani shocked supporters by announcing that he raised a whopping $1 million directly from New Yorkers for his transition to City Hall. You were swindled, and it will only continue. They've now learned stuff can't be free, or so I thought. mayhem. And, well, so you see, when you send out an invitation for chaos, you get chaos. This was recorded outside Dave's Hot Chicken on 8th Ave and 56th Street, and they're giving away free sliders today for anyone who downloads the Dave's Hot Chicken app. This is part of the Drake birthday giveaway. The lines wrapped around the block, people screaming every time the door opens, and staff are saying they might have to shut it down early. Just imagine this on a full-blown scale, citywide scale of socialism, the Mamdani way. And people screaming, well, Zoran said we don't have to work and everything's free. Yeah, that mentality. Now, just imagine how bad that would be, but worse. Imagine how bad things will get when they run out of free chicken and the people in the middle and the back of the line don't get any. I can already tell you that they won't be mad at Mayor Mamdani. Nope. They're going to be mad at whoever they see who did get their free chicken. And it's going to get nutty, y'all.
More than 50,000 people have applied to be a part of your administration. What's your advice for people who maybe want their resume to rise to the top?
Well, I think the first thing is I'm so excited to see this number, because what we've been hearing time and time again with the close to 20,000 vacancies we have in city government is that there just isn't the interest in public service. There isn't the interest in delivering within city government any longer. And what we've shown actually is that when you have a directive where City Hall becomes a place of supporting New Yorkers as opposed to a place of scandal that New Yorkers read about in the papers every day, you can see now more than 50,000 people applying. And that just shows the excitement in this moment on delivering on an affordability agenda. And, you know, my recommendation to those applying is that it doesn't matter who you know, it matters the work that you do. So I appreciate the resumes that are coming in, the interest that's coming in, because that is what we're looking to build an administration of. It's going to be excellence and it's going to be capability. And that's what we're starting to do already.
And there's that word again. There's that word again, y'all. Scandal. You heard him say it, right? But apparently, Mamdani says it's not about who you know. However, isn't it ironic? And correct me if I'm wrong, but Zoran wouldn't be anywhere at all right now if it wasn't for who he knows as the entitled child of a Disney director and famous Ivy League Marxist academic, right? But we'll have to come back to that because I don't want you all to miss this. And apparently who Zoran Mamdani knows is all a part of his scam in this massive scandal.
Investigation launched months ago.
The city reportedly paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to the bottom of a wide array of accusations against Chief Jamil Al-Tahari. It comes after a memo from a city employee began circulating, alleging the chief acted inappropriately on several occasions and may have even broken the law.
7 News Detroit's Randy Wimbley looking into those findings, listening to people about steps the city must take.
That investigation combed through more than 500,000 documents and included about 40 witness interviews. The investigation substantiated a number of allegations against a Hamtramck police chief and another Hamtramck cop. Driving a city vehicle after drinking alcohol, pressuring officers to help in a custody dispute, and handing a loaded gun to a civilian volunteer and instructing them to put it to someone's head. Those are just a few of the allegations against Hamtramck Police Chief Jamil Al-Tahiri that Miller Johnson, a law firm the city hired to conduct an investigation, found to be true.
I would get fired if I worked like that at my job and did all these side deals and took people's safety, lightly. I wouldn't have a job.
Residents like Tracy Pilcher and Mark Armand are stunned. What do you want your mayor and your council to do in light of these findings?
Do what's right for the city. If somebody did all those things they're accused of, then they shouldn't be in charge of anybody.
The report was posted on the city's website and taken down soon after, but not before 7 News Detroit downloaded the damning document commissioned by city leaders to investigate allegations against Chief Al-Tahiri, Officer David Adamczyk, and City Manager Max Garbarino. All three are on administrative leave.
Max was just doing his job. He was a whistleblower, and he came out and did his job, and he shouldn't have been suspended.
The report found Adamczyk, among other things, committed overtime abuse and violated policies regarding stolen property. As for Garbarino, the investigation largely did not substantiate the initial allegations against him, but it did say he exercised poor judgment in his role as city manager, like delaying addressing allegations of misconduct by Chief Al-Tahiri and Adamczyk. But Garbarino tells me by phone he would have taken action sooner, but claims Mayor Amir Ghalib reportedly told him he had no authority to do so. We reached out to the mayor and every member of city council for comment. No takers. We also contacted Hamtramck's police chief and the attorney for Officer Adamczyk, but we have not yet heard back. The investigation's findings are set to be discussed at Tuesday's city council meeting. Stay tuned. In Hamtramck, I'm Randy Wembley, 7 News Detroit.
Well, back in August, it was reported that Chief Jamil Al-Tahiri was terminated by city council, but after he lawyered up, the city has decided to redesignate his departure as resigned, as well as offer a severance package. But why? Tonight, we're getting answers.
And so, as opposed to terminating him, we've come up with a resolution where he resigns as the acting police chief, and they gave him 5 months of severance pay.
Attorney Amir Macklid, who is representing former Hamtramck Police Chief Jamil Al-Tahiri, is talking about the city's decision to pay Al-Tahiri and designate his departure as a resignation. Macklid believes Al-Tahiri was retaliated against for being a whistleblower.
The chief had been reporting wrongdoing from other police officers and had been giving advice to the mayor and to the city attorney about some of the misdeeds of people within the police department. And so instead of being protected as a whistleblower, he was terminated.
Macklid also believes former city manager Max Garbarino prompted this one-sided investigation into his client.
Initially, this chaos was created a lot with the former city manager, right, Max Garbarino. And then there was an investigation done by Miller Johnson, which is a local law firm that had done really a one-sided investigation without any input from the chief himself, in terms of what was being alleged in that investigation.
Some of the things alleged in that investigation was that Al-Tahiri drove while intoxicated using city vehicles, and detailed one incident where Al-Tahiri allegedly drove intoxicated from a strip club while other officers were in that vehicle. But again, Macklid insists Al-Tahiri was never allowed to address or respond to those accusations.
And really, we found that to be retaliatory in nature.
And we did reach out to former city manager Max Garbarino. His attorney responded with this statement. It reads in part, quote, "The claim that Mr. Garbarino created this situation is ridiculous. This matter began because of Chief Al-Tahiri's own serious and disturbing conduct and because Mr. Garbarino was required to report that conduct under law. This is what set this in motion and nothing else," end quote. That said, again, moving forward, Macklid says this case is closed.
And he'll go his separate ways from the city. He gets a severance, and he's able to move on with dignity.
In Hamtramck, Getting Answers, Gino Vici, CBS.
All right, everybody. So let me get this straight. Last August, the Hamtramck City Council, every single one of them, Democrats, by the way, stood up and voted to fire their police chief, Jamil Al-Tahiri. They had an independent investigation that said he was knee-deep in misconduct, whispering about presidential pardons for a convicted New York financier, anti-white bias lawsuits from officers he axed, election meddling rumors, the whole nine, a dumpster fire. But here's where it gets good, folks, because now Al-Tahiri's lawyer comes out and says, hold up. The city charter doesn't even give the council the power to fire the chief. They knew it, but they did it anyway. Then, instead of admitting that they broke their own rules, they forced a resignation and handed this guy a 5-month severance check. $52,000 taxpayer dollars paid in one lump sum 2 weeks after the deal. That's your money. That's your money, Hamtramck. That's the money from the poorest, most densely packed city in Michigan going straight into the pocket of the guy they just called corrupt. But here's the best or worst part, maybe, depending on how you look at it. And while all this is going down, who slides into Al-Tahiri's DMs? The incoming administration of New York City's brand new Allah-praising mayor, Zohran Mamdani. Another first, Muslim mayor diversity box checked. And they're already talking about bringing Al-Tahiri into the fold. Yes, the same guy Hamtramck just paid to disappear and Mamdani wants him back in New York for a cushy new gig. Fox 2 Detroit confirmed it. The Mamdani team won't even deny it. And so let's just do a bit of a quick recap for the Democrats who keep voting for this circus. 1, you scream about accountability. 2, you got a fake firing and a 6-figure goodbye kiss. Then you screamed about rooting out corruption. You watched your own council ignore their own charter and pay the corrupt guy to go away quietly. You screamed about diversity and inclusion. You just watched 2 Muslim majority Democrat machines protect one of their own while throwing the taxpayers under the bus. And then you cut them a severance check. That's money coming out of the same budget that can't fix your streets, can't afford to fund your police. But wait, there's more. That new job offer over there in New York, yeah, that's the reward for keeping his mouth shut about whatever else is rotting in that building, right? Ladies and gentlemen, this I present to you is the Democratic Party in 2025 and going into 2026. Same machine, different city. And they don't drain swamps. They just relocate the alligators and give them a raise. So let me make this crystal clear so nobody misses it. New York, wake up and look in the mirror. This playbook is coming to NYC and the game begins 1/1/2026. Get ready. It's going to get ugly. Mamdani's already scraping the bottom of the barrel to complete his transition team and cabinet. But tell me he's not importing disgraced ex-NYPD equity boss Jamel Al-Taheri, the same cop Hamtramck just paid $52,000 to disappear after a 59-page report nailed him for evidence tampering and destruction, repeated drunk driving in his patrol car, including post-strip club joyrides, handing a loaded gun to a civilian and telling her to point it at someone's head, domestic violence assaults, bribery, corruption, fake IDs, and blackmailing whistleblowers. This is the toxic clown Mamdani wants back in uniform in NYC. Same guy whose DEI workshop helped crime explode while he turned the badge into a grievance hustle. Adams backed real cops. Mamdani recycles the absolute worst rejects even Michigan wouldn't keep. Failing upward, but New York City taxpayers and some soon to be, unfortunately, helpless victims pay the price. And Elise Stefanik wants you all to meet the defund the police radical far leftist tapped as one of New York's top advisors. Reminder, he wants NYC to reduce the NYPD operating budget. For example, our IE, defund the police, in other words, and wants to dox our brave officers and release names of cops. This is dangerous and exactly what Kathy Hochul endorsed when she bent the knee to all the defund the police socialists. But it certainly looks to me like Zoran is getting an early start on being another one-term NYC mayor. I hope. And this is who Mamdani, under the direct tutelage, advisory, and support of the likes of J.B. Pritzker and other failed state and city leaders and others alongside his 34-year-old chief of staff. And this is who they decide to appoint and select to lead NYC's police force. A police force that will be hardly recognizable.
So I'm going to give you a little example.
So ideally you because there's different ways, by the way. You can fit it how you want to, but you could make one side short, one side long, right? And then you put it over and over on your base. And some ladies get creative. You can put a pin. I freestyle everything I do, as you can see. And then I just tuck it in right here. And you wrap it around to your quarters. Make sure your bosom is covered. There's different ways, but this is the most simple way that you can wear it.
These are appointed scammers, professional fraudsters, the most corrupt of the most corrupt, and nobody even voted for them. They just get inserted and planted by Mr. Socialism himself. Mr. It's not who you know. Not to be confused with the fake news from the left regarding Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. But I will quickly read this post from the man himself. And he says, I'm sincerely sorry for wasting your time on a weekend with nonsensical media fairy tales. And I do realize the act of addressing this puts even more eyes on it. However, I work for you all, the American citizenry, on our nation's top national security issues, and I can't allow false headlines like this to stand. Claiming I was hired with no background check is just a lie. It's a complete fabrication. I held a security clearance while protecting Democrat and Republican presidents for over 10 years, and all of the background check requirements for my current position as Deputy Director of the FBI have been met. Those are simple facts. Again, my apologies for wasting your time on this, but I work for you and you should know the facts. I'm honored to serve in the Trump administration alongside Director Patel as your Deputy Director, and I will continue to hit the gas pedal on crushing violent crime and securing the homeland. God bless America and all those who defend her. Dan. But to get back on track and continue a little bit of our history lesson we started earlier on in this video and talked about and in conversation, and we all know how even descendants of Cuban and Lithuanian socialists are pleading with NYC voters right now, with almost tears in their eyes, telling these young, dumb, TikTok, laziest of the lazies, the hot girls for Zorons of the world. But they're like, hey, look, guys, we've all seen this movie before. Famine, violence, Big Brother watching, and it ends with breadlines, not utopias.
Well, those who have read history, okay, they understand that socialism is for morons. I love Seattle. They just elected a new mayor. I don't know her, but I've read a lot about her. She's a typical moon bat. She's a community organizer, probably eats tofu and organic broccoli. She's a self-avowed socialist. She's proud of things that she should be ashamed of. She's entitled to her opinion, and I guess what I just said is kind of mean. I'll stop being mean if she'll stop being foolish. The loon wing, the Bolshevik wing, the socialist wing of the Democratic Party is obviously in control. That's what drove the shutdown. That's what made Senator Schumer do what he did. He knew better. Remember the old Jack Nicholson movie line, go sell crazy somewhere else, we're all stocked up here? I don't think Chuck saw the movie. Chuck kept saying, we got this. But none of them had it, and they all needed therapy. And they hurt the American people badly, but we all stuck together, with the exception of Senator Paul. I want to thank President Trump for sticking with us.
You got to love Senator John Kennedy, right? And I don't mean to be a little scattered and jump around here from city to city and even country to country, but I do honestly, genuinely care about our future, all of us. And I can't help but see the demise and the destruction that's happening and occurring. The DSA's strategic takeover of big city by big city, and then moving on to state governors, on to Congress, the House, the Senate, and then setting their sights for the White House and the president. But it all starts right here and right now in New York City with Zohran Mamdani. But we're already seeing the virus spread and the contagion reaching Seattle. And no surprise there, really, right? Oh, and of course, it's hitting San Francisco too. Oh, and speaking of it not being about who you know, here's another handpicked selected, unelected, but also corrupt official story.
An embarrassing turn of events in San Francisco, and Mayor Daniel Lurie is taking full responsibility. Bea Alcaraz, who Mayor Lurie appointed last Thursday as a district supervisor, resigned last night amidst a cloud of controversy. NBC's Sergio Quintana has the latest from City Hall.
Today, Mayor Daniel Lurie paused before an array of microphones and cameras for a few moments before taking full responsibility for what's clearly his administration's first big blunder since he took office.
Yeah, I'm taking responsibility in my office, and we're going to go through our vetting process. We're going to get better. We're going to get stronger at it.
Just 1 week ago, the mayor introduced Isabella Bea Alcaraz as his unconventional pick to fill the seat of recently recalled District 4 Supervisor Joel Engardio. At 29, Alcaraz is a political clean slate, having never even attended a government hearing. She approached Mayor Lurie during a Sunset District night market months ago and voiced her interest in the supervisor's job. Last week, when asked why the mayor would pick a political novice, he noted her 6 years' experience as the owner of a pet shop and a lifelong resident of the Sunset.
This is our chance to have a seat at the table. We do have the power to make change.
But the new owner of that pet shop, who took it over from Alcaraz this summer, started raising red flags almost immediately.
I've worked with her pretty limitedly, transferring the business over. And I just know she's not capable of doing what a supervisor needs to do.
Julia Baran also shared a video of what she describes as filthy conditions of the store, including dead mice and feces.
I let the mayor's office know beforehand, before I gave it all to the media, and they were just like, what do you want us to do about it?
At an event yesterday, the mayor reiterated his support for Alcaraz, but Baran then shared texts with Mission Local that suggested Alcaraz had been paying some employees under the table and possibly dodging taxes. That's when the mayor's office called a meeting with Alcaraz and she resigned.
And I thought it was a courageous move on her part to step aside last night.
Alcaraz declined to be interviewed today, but with her resignation and the contentious recall of Engardio in September, District 4 is once again without a supervisor tonight. The mayor acknowledges both these situations, and a stepped-up vetting process will make it even more challenging to fill that seat. But his office is already looking. At San Francisco City Hall, Sergio Quintana, NBC Bay Area News.
And I must say, I was a little shocked at first, and I was like, wait a minute, hold up. A Democrat admitting responsibility? That's unheard of. But odds are, it's likely because she did far worse and didn't want to be exposed. And as you can all see, San Francisco's new mayor, Daniel Lurie, is already a disgrace. He picked a woman, Isabella Bea Alcaraz, to be a supervisor based on her 6 years of owning a pet shop. Then it turned out she was filthy and allegedly dodged taxes. Thankfully, she's now resigned. But I do apologize because I realized that I misspoke earlier and I said this is starting in New York City, but technically Mamdani has drawn inspiration from a neighboring state, New Jersey. And when I tell you all that I've searched and I've looked, but I couldn't find anyone, not one single clip, reel, post, nothing. Nobody is happy about the sky-high tax situation, the nightmarish hell they're all living in right now.
Did you know New Jersey has the highest property tax rate in the country? The average home will cost someone $10,000 now. And the worst lifetime tax burden of any state in the country, over 54%. These numbers are horrific, especially for somebody that already owns a home or is even trying to aspire to own a home. These blue states, especially in New Jersey, are trying to tell you economically they're doing well, and they're not. They're increasing all your gas taxes. They're increasing the corporate tax rates. Why the hell would you want to bring a business here? It doesn't make any sense. So it's up to us to keep waking people up with this information, especially the other side that thinks everything's going well. So just keep, informing, inspiring, building this community, and definitely sharing this information. Appreciate all you guys do. Thanks.
And did you know New Jersey ranks as the worst state for property taxes? It will cost an average homeowner $10,000 a year tax burden. And to put that into perspective, Ladies and gentlemen, that's over 54% of your lifetime income. These blue liberal states are hurting everyday hardworking people with their incompetence. They want you spending almost 55% of your life's earnings due to their incompetence, and they're the main reason for the catastrophic taxes in New Jersey. In fact, worst in the nation. And do you know what's even crazier than that? To think to yourself and say, as you roll out of bed in the morning, do you know what I want to do today? I want to be just like New Jersey. But that is exactly what Zohran Mamdani does, besides prayer call at 5 a.m. But it's fucking insane.
So a lot of individuals in this city pay more than 50% of their income in taxes. When you talk about a fair share, how much more than, what is the fair share? What's the number?
I've said that we should increase personal income taxes by 2%.
Is fair.
And my point is this:
give up more than half of your income. That's
if you're making $1 million in New York City or more than that, you can afford to pay 2% more. And the reasons you can afford to do so is because that money will be used to better your quality of life as well.
Yeah.
Because when I speak to the wealthiest New Yorkers, I hear concerns about the cleanliness of the city, the quality of life in the city, questions of public safety. This money is the money that will be used to deliver on those things so that we can ensure that we have a return on investment for all of the money that we are raising and spending right here across the 5 boroughs.
And this has just got me perplexed as to how a fellow New Yorker, born and raised, could and would want to over every other New Yorker the way that he does.
But he got his political career starting here. He was a student at Bronx Science.
Yeah, science.
Wait a minute. But he was the vice president of the Bronx Science student body. So that qualifies him. In addition to that, Zohran, he had a brief hip-hop career.
Yes.
Yeah. And although Jamani and I may disagree, but hip-hop started in the Bronx.
1520 Sedgwick Avenue. In my district.
Now, I won't say that in Brooklyn, but... And so... He is born and raised. I have been born and raised in Brooklyn, but I know the power of the Bronx.
That's right.
And I know that all of us need to be standing in purpose today and in support of my good friend.
But wait, what? And I honestly don't know if an honest word has ever come out of Big Tish James's mouth before, but like I said already, socialism, well, it must mean comedy, because all I heard were people laughing at all of Zohran's fake list of accomplishments and qualifications, for which he has none. But the soon-to-be former New York Attorney General Letitia James, probably just a paid shill at a campaign rally for Mamdani, claimed that he was born and raised in the Bronx? This, folks, and I don't know what's more false, this or the mortgage paperwork the AG allegedly falsified to obtain better rates. But it certainly stacks up. And correct me if I'm wrong here, because I know I'm not. However, Mamdani was born in Uganda into an Indian family. That family immigrated to South Africa when he was about 5 years old, and then to the United States when he was 7, and finally settling in New York City. So born and raised? Hardly, Letitia. What a fraud she is. But only further adding insult to injury, as it has just been brought to my attention, the New York Attorney General Letitia James, now under fire as T&E driving school in Queens busted in massive DMV bribery scam, owners and examiners indicted for fast-tracking licenses to illegals with 0 tests, 139 count indictments unsealed. And stay tuned, folks, because more arrests are coming.
We're disclosing today to the people of New York is that unfortunately too many people have gotten driver's licenses because of corruption, because of greed, because of theft, because of thievery. We are announcing arrests today of individuals who are taken into custody. There are multiple New York State, some are New York State motor vehicle examiners, who brazenly betrayed their oaths of office by accepting cash in exchange for falsifying the results of countless road examinations, or in many cases allowing individuals to bypass the testing process altogether. The result of a long-term investigation spearheaded by my office and the New York State Inspector General with the assistance of the New York City Police Department and those who are here with us and you'll hear from today. Investigators uncovered a corrupt network involving not only government employees, but also individuals at a driving school, imposters who took tests on behalf of unqualified applicants, and the applicants themselves who paid to illegally obtain driver's licenses. In some cases, even the prerequisite learner's permit was fraudulently obtained.
One woman even wore disguises to impersonate test takers. All 7 are now facing felony charges.
There is a lot going on in this investigation, and Eyewitness News reporter Stacey Sager live now with the details in Garden City. Stacey.
Well, Mike, we all know the DMV makes us go through certain tests to get our driver's license, and to get a truck driver's license is harder, as it should be. Well, prosecutors say this was really an elaborate corruption scheme, and some of the workers at this DMV almost got away with it.
Deciding who gets to operate heavy rigs on our roads and highways is not something the New York Department of Motor Vehicles should take lightly.
Bypassing that safeguard is far from a harmless shortcut. It is a dangerous threat to public safety.
But that's exactly what prosecutors here in Nassau County allege in a 51-count felony indictment against 7 different people, including a supervisor at this DMV in Garden City, Kenesha Middleton, and her sister Jamie Middleton, allegedly taking at least 10 different permit tests for no-show drivers. You can see Jamie in surveillance pictures wearing different disguises, even fake facial hair, as she posed as a man who would be applying for a commercial driving permit. But she forgot to take off her fake nails.
I think it's pretty poor. The fingernails kind of gave it away.
So did another supervisor who acted as the whistleblower. Prosecutors say the defendants charged as much as $3,000 per permit test, 2 of them working these counters so they could wave the phony test taker through. 3 of the drivers who paid the fee ended up with commercial permits, but only 1 passed his road test, James Nurse, who ended up working here at the Town of Hempstead Recycling Center, where he spent over a year and a half driving a truck.
A government employee, licensed only through a lie, driving a massive truck through our streets.
Back here at the DMV, where everyone else jumps through the usual bureaucratic roadblocks just to get a permit or real ID.
That is very disgusting.
It's not safe, so it shouldn't be allowed.
Although some more cynical, not at all surprised.
I understand why someone might do it. I understand the frustration in trying to do it legally. Then you know what? Maybe we'll put mustaches on and put funny hats on and try to go around and beat it that way. And for a while, by the way, it worked.
Yeah, well, now those workers are facing a host of charges, including felonies such as tampering with public records and impairing the integrity of a government licensing exam. Meanwhile, the town of Hempstead has put out a statement saying they have moved to fire that truck driver that worked for them because he was never qualified to do the job in the first place.
But I digress, because we all know that deep down, this isn't about New York. It isn't about affordability or any of the other lies that they spew. We know this is rooted in a deep-seated evil and derangement level hatred for just one man and one man alone.
Like, yes, Donald Trump is for you. If you are a convicted sex trafficker who should get transferred to a less bad prison because you're not going to name him. Donald Trump is for you if you have a jet that you will give him. And then, or Donald Trump is for you if you give billions to his campaign. And so he will allow you to bypass tariffs and not small businesses.
And Jon Stewart is for you if you're of low IQ and fall into the category of people that think passion and speaking well is truth. Or Jon Stewart is for you if you consider someone who is such a poor and miserable excuse for a human being who I don't even think he recognizes how completely troubled he's become. Or Jon Stewart is for you if you still consider him to be a comedian, or if you're one of those yuppies who find his podcasts and guests like AOC a worthwhile waste of your time, or his Comedy Central AI written jokes even remotely funny. Or Jon Stewart, or better yet, socialism is for you if you happen to live in America and can make sure your kid wears $150 shoes, sips an $8 coffee, and posts from a $1,200 phone about being oppressed and claiming capitalism has failed them. Oh, and mind you, the likes of Jon Stewart, a Jew, which makes his and Zoran's relationship quite odd and fascinating, but neither of them will share any of their wealth with any of you. Just ask either Jon Stewart's staff or even Zoran's voter base, whom he's holding his hand out and executing an expert level marketing of the grift, making the poor who wants everything handed to them for free fund his mayoral transition. Congratulations, morons. You played yourself. He's already raked in over $1 million with this cash grab and has got these idiots at Starbucks out on the streets boycotting, about to lose their jobs and be broke and homeless, all in the name of hate the rich. I mean, come on. How can New Yorkers be so blind? What happened to street smarts? What happened to common sense? And so, let me get this straight, folks. And you mean to tell me that he wants people to boycott Starbucks? And I guess his grocery stores will serve free coffee, right? That free coffee that's going to be served by happy workers making $33 minimum wage on subsidized housing and taking free bus rides to his city-run grocery stores, all while their 3 kids are at the free daycare. What a dream. And these fools bought it. But don't look up now, because that ain't rain that's dripping on you coming out of the sky. Having said this earlier, but zero accomplishments and being extremely unqualified is an understatement for this bunch of losers. Now being elected to hold office and run big cities and all their residents and businesses into the ground. All these people are living off their parents' money, like how Katie Wilson, a 43-year-old socialist who still lives off her parents' money, wins Seattle's mayoral race. And so it's no wonder that she thinks and believes socialism's a good idea. She's never had to work an honest day in her life for anything. It's all been handed or spoon-fed to her. Silver, of course. But I hate to break it to you, if you don't already know, but they're not freebies. Your taxes pay for them. Hence, raising taxes on New York corporations. And if you still think that your taxes and dollars should go to billionaires and corporations as handouts, then instead of to programs that help the working class who make New York City run, then you may just hate New York, or any other city for that matter that votes for this shit. But granted, the core issue isn't really who hates New York, but how to balance business dynamics and public services in a high-cost city. Taxation is inherently controversial. The key is ensuring that resource allocation truly improves the city's operational efficiency. And when they say the rich, they mean anyone who owns a house or a car or votes in a way that the DSA doesn't approve of. All of this talk about billionaires is just window dressing. You've been sold a bill of goods, snake oil, lied to, hoodwinked. New Jersey is almost 25% more expensive than Florida. And this is what you should expect. But with nothing in return, nothing to show for it, and well, almost nothing. Because a worse off quality of life, less opportunity, terrible jobs, if any, closed businesses, trash buildup, crime hikes, and crime sprees. I mean, shall I continue? The list goes on and on. Yet this is the modeling for Mamdani's dream for New York, or rather, it's a nightmare.
Final message, and I know that this is one that might be a little newsworthy, but given the fact that you and literally across the street is Mamdani, how are you going to handle that if the polls are correct there as well and he does win? What is going to be your what's going to be your strategy there in dealing with America's strongest communist mayor? What the hell's that, man?
Benny, very simple. We're going to roll out the welcome mat. So anybody that wants to flee New York City, any business that wants to leave because he said he's raising business taxes, we're going to welcome them in New Jersey. But let me also say to a mayor, potential mayor, who's been anti-cop, there's 400,000 New Jerseyans that work in Manhattan every day. And they don't stop being my responsibility just because they've left our borders. I'll do everything I can to protect them.
Wow. Okay. So you're going to say I'll do a sanctuary state policy, sanctuary from New York communism, coming over to New Jersey.
I love it.
Okay.
But let me say one other thing. If he goes ahead with that congestion pricing plan, which is an egregious money grab on New Jerseyans.
But much like the mayoral battle, which once Adams dropped out, wasn't really much of anything that would be deserving of the title of battle. But for the sake of this argument and conversation, it, along with the 2025 New Jersey gubernatorial election, was a stark example of how national chaos can drown out local realities, handing Democrats a comfortable win despite deep-seated voter frustrations that the media often glosses over or just flat out ignores. But the incumbent Democratic governor, Phil Murphy, was term limited, setting up a rematch between Representative Mickey Sherrill, a Democrat, and Jack Ciattarelli, Republican, the same candidates who faced off in 2021, where Ciattarelli lost by just 3 points. However, polls leading up to the race showed a nail-biter, with Ciattarelli neck and neck or even slightly ahead in some surveys, fueling GOP optimism that he could capitalize on New Jersey's shifting rightward tilt, similar to what was seen in Trump's 2024 presidential win in parts of the state. But Sherrill cruised to victory with about 56% of the vote to Ciattarelli's 43%, a 13-point blowout that stunned Republican insiders and left the New Jersey party scrambling for answers. Naturally, the finger-pointing started almost immediately, and much of it circled back to the federal government shutdown that had gripped Washington for over a month by Election Day. This was the longest shutdown in U.S. history, 43 days, starting October 1, triggered by partisan gridlock over spending bills, with Republicans pushing for cuts to programs like Medicaid expansions from the 2025 One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and Democrats demanding extensions for Affordable Care Act or Biden-Obamacare subsidies. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats leveraged this and furloughed 1.4 million federal workers, many without pay, delayed food assistance for millions, and snarled air travel with sickouts among unpaid air traffic controllers. Some workers at the TSA received massive bonus checks from Kristi Noem, which I'm sure are very much welcome right now before Christmas.
So today we are announcing that we are going to be handing out bonus checks of $10,000 to TSOs, to agents who work for TSA who served with exemplary service. And what that means is that we are going to not only continue their paychecks like they should have received all along, but also they're going to get a bonus check for stepping up, taking on extra shifts, for showing up each and every day, for serving the American people, and taking seriously the mission that the Department of Homeland Security takes seriously and that they take seriously every single day, and that's keeping the American people safe while they go and commute across the country and while they do their work and business and take care of their families. Today we're going to talk about a couple of individuals that did incredible things here at the George Bush Airport, that stepped up and took on extra challenges, extra hours, even though their families were dealing with some difficulties because of the government shutdown. They were examples to the rest of the individuals who worked with them and endured those hardships and continued to shine a light on really what is special about America.
And I just want to know, what would you do with another 10 grand right now? A $10,000 bonus. How would you deploy those funds in your life and or in your business? And now, here we are today. President Trump signed a stopgap bill ending the Dems' shutdown on November 12th, but the damage was done, especially in a state like New Jersey, where federal funding cuts targeting infrastructure and social programs hit hard. But call it a stunned GOP reaction, as party leaders like Camden County GOP Chair Kimberly Stewart thought it was neck and neck. But voters saw Ciattarelli warmly embraced by President Trump and as an extension of the shutdown pain rather than a break from it. Trump himself even later conceded the shutdown was a major reason for GOP defeats nationwide, telling Republican senators it wasn't good for anybody and tying it to losses in New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City.
But the pain is the point. Every single day of the shutdown has stopped 320 local businesses every single day from accessing $170 million in SBA loans for hiring and for expansion. Now, in Chuck Schumer's own state, that is $40 million every single week. In my home state of Georgia, Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock shutting down $35 million in Main Street Capitol every single week. So on day 27, all of that adds up to 6,000 small business loans that have been prevented from receiving upwards of $4 billion in Main Street lending. And it's not just the flow of capital that it's been cut off, as the speaker said. It's small businesses that rely on federal contracts. Thousands of them across the country have received stop work orders. Thousands more who rely on federal workers as their customers are seeing their revenue dry up. Here in Washington, of course, but around our military communities, around main streets across America. It's our storefronts that are cutting back hours, manufacturers that are shelving expansion plans, and generational businesses that are closing their doors for good. It's business that they will never get back. Thousands of painful stories like these are playing out, and that's what Democrats are talking about when they say they now have leverage.
The damage caused by the Democrats with this reckless government shutdown cannot be forgotten. It is entirely the fault of the Democrat Party. Just look at the vote count. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees have missed their paychecks. Tens of billions in wages and benefits were withheld, impacting vulnerable families. Millions of low-income Americans missed their SNAP benefits. Nearly 20,000 flights at airports across the country were delayed due to staffing shortages, causing Americans to miss family events, vacations, and work obligations. According to Airlines for America, an estimated 5.2 million travelers have had their flights disrupted over the course of the Democrat shutdown. And our economy has lost billions and billions of dollars in economic activity over the course of this shutdown, hurting consumer sentiment and crushing the travel and hospitality industries.
For the past 7 weeks, the Democrats' shutdown has inflicted massive harm. They caused 20,000 flights to be canceled or delayed. They departed so many times, so late. People were hurt so badly. Nobody's ever seen anything like this one. This was a no-brainer. This was an easy extension. But they didn't want to do it the easy way. They had to do it the hard way. And they look very bad, the Democrats do. They deprived more than 1 million government workers from their paychecks and cut off food stamp benefits for millions and millions more Americans in need. They caused tens of thousands of federal contractors and small businesses to go unpaid. And the total effect of the damage their antics caused will take weeks and probably months to really calculate accurately, including the serious harm that they did to our economy and to people and to families. So I just want to tell the American people, you should not forget this. When we come up to midterms and other things, don't forget what they've done to our country. I also want to call for a termination to the filibuster so that this can never happen again.
But ladies and gentlemen, the truth is, and I'm not ashamed or afraid to admit it, but the shutdown became the perfect scapegoat for Democrats, a political tool to leverage voter anger at the expense of everyday folks already crushed by New York and New Jersey's affordability nightmare. We know this playbook all too well, right? Frame federal dysfunction as solely Republican malice, sideline the real pain points, and eke out wins for progressive policies that exacerbate those pains. New Jersey isn't just blue. It's a tax hellscape that's been bleeding residents for years. As independent voters have even reached out, contacted me, they've posted online, they've pointed out and told me how the state boasts the nation's highest property taxes, averaging over $12,000 annually for decent homes, and the fourth highest top income tax rate at nearly 11%, squeezing families dry while home prices have ballooned from $350,000 pre-pandemic to over $500,000 today. Energy costs spiked 24 to 31% in a year, thanks to aggressive renewable pushes that prioritize ideology over reliability, and illegal immigration in sanctuary state warehouses undercuts wages for lower middle-class citizens, echoing a lost era when one factory job could buy a house and a car. Frustrated New Jerseyan and New Yorker logic cuts through the media bias like a hot knife through butter. And look, I'm sure that these independents aren't alone in their emotions and feelings, the lies that they are living, the hell they have been put through. These are folks having voted both ways, but see Democrats as compromised by radical progressive ideologues who want to campaign on how they'll minimize the pain of anyone outside the elite bracket. And so what are they doing now? Well, as you all just saw, they are building campaigns on TikTok and heavy on the Trump bashing, but light on acknowledging the massive affordability issue, strangling working class dreams, sky high rents, impossible savings for down payments, and a next generation priced out of the American dream entirely. But more importantly, real solutions outside of free everything. The rich will just pay for it. Oh yeah. Because spoiler alert, no the they won't. This may be a hot take, but from where I stand or sit, I see this as being really quite simple. And people just like you, just like me, we need real solutions, not this lip service the left delivers and have gotten quite good at talking out of both sides of their mouths.
We know that Mamdani does want to tax the rich more, bring it up about 2%. He can't do that on his own. You've previously said that you wouldn't be raising taxes. Have you reconsidered that stance?
No, I would say one energetic rally does not get me to change my positions, I assure you. But I do hear people's voices. I process what everybody says, but I'm also have to balance governing this state and making sure that those people who are actually the reason we have a generous, supportive budget that helps lift people up, it's their revenues that we tax. 1.5% of New Yorkers cover about a third of our budget. That's enormous. I'm concerned about outmigration of people who are the ones who are supporting our budget. I cannot make up for that with middle-class tax increases. I cannot do that to the middle class and the struggling New Yorkers. So this is the balance. I mean, this is my position.
We need more child care. And it has to be universal. Child care for everyone who wants it. So here's what we're going to do. This crowd is fired up. All right. I can hear you.
And over in New Jersey, well, Sia Torelli, by contrast, pitched common sense fixes, pro-business reforms to halt the unaffordability train. But the shutdown's timing, peaking right as polls close, let Democrats weaponize it, turning voter exhaustion into a referendum on President Trump rather than a demand for change. And so, sound minds see this for what it is. Manipulation via selective outrage, where billion-dollar PACs, DNC dropped $3 million for Cheryl, by the way, amplifying the noise, and already pinched, squeezed, and struggling families foot the bill. But if you just tune out the echo chamber and crunch the numbers, it's easy to see. And New Jersey lost 100,000+ residents to cheaper states like Pennsylvania since 2020, because the real evil here are policies that prioritize leverage over lives. Shifting now to New York City, the 2025 mayoral race was a chaotic three-way circus that rewarded outsider energy and punished the establishment, but not without the kind of backroom wheeling and dealing that reeks of elite self-interest, crime, and fraud. And so as all eyes on incumbent Eric Adams, Democrat, and probably more so independent and leaning right towards Republican after how Biden Kamala treated him, but ultimately dropped out amid scandals, clearing the field for Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, Democrat, but Democratic Socialist. Then former Governor Andrew Cuomo, the independent, and Curtis Sliwa, Republican and Guardian Angels founder. Turnout shattered records, over 2 million votes, the highest since 1969, which is a gift and a curse, driven by young voters who believed vibes from viral TikTok reels more than they did facts, but are quickly finding out all they didn't know. Socialism doesn't work. History's got the receipts, and they're damning. Wind back to Venezuela under Hugo Chavez's 21st century socialism, a Mamdani wet dream of nationalized industries, price caps, and wealth grabs to fund missions against poverty. By 2013, when Nicolas Maduro took the baton, capital had fled like rats from a burning building that had been set on fire. Factories shuttered, foreign investors ghosted, and hyperinflation hit 1.7 million% by 2018. GDP cratered 75% from 2013 to 2021, worse than the Great Depression. Oil production, once the world's envy, tanked 80% amid corruption and mismanagement. Over 7 million refugees poured out, the largest displacement in Latin American history. Sure, apologists blame oil prices or economic war, but the core rot was simply socialist central planning that choked incentives, bred black markets, and turned a top 10 global economy in the 1970s into a humanitarian dumpster fire. Or there's Argentina's Peronist flirtations with socialism in the 1940s to the 70s, when Juan Perón's nationalizations and wage hikes sparked an international boom. But by the 1980s, capital flight ballooned to $30 billion annually. Inflation raged to 5,000%, and GDP per capita halved. Factories idled, entrepreneurs decamped to Uruguay or Brazil, and the middle class got pulverized, rhyming with today's Swiss jitters or the UK's 16,500 millionaire bleed. These aren't anomalies, folks. They are the scorecard of heavy-handed redistribution that leads to only one inevitable outcome. The wealthy flee. Investment dries up. The state prints money to plug holes. Inflation spirals, and everyone but the cronies suffers.
Congratulations, New York. You just elected a man who promised that he was going to pay all of your bills using the money from anyone who makes over $1 million a year. So before we fast forward to the oops, we're broke part of this story, let's talk some numbers. Currently, there are roughly 80 to 90,000 millionaires that live in New York City, and about 125 billionaires. And between those two groups, they already cover about 48% of all of the city income taxes. But now Mamdani would like to jack up their taxes another 2%, as well as hike up corporate rate taxes on top of it. And y'all are all out here thinking that he sounds like Robin Hood. But here's what's actually happening. 10 to 15% of those millionaires are already planning to leave. Another 10 to 15% of the billionaires are shifting residency or moving operations out of the city. And another 3 to 5% of major companies are preparing to relocate entirely. Sorry, I left my crayons at home for this one, but that is a guesstimated $1.3 to $2.4 billion in lost tax revenue every single year. And when that money walks out the door, the city is not going to be chasing the rich. It's going to be chasing you. Because when the top leaves, the bill always trickles down. So when your rent starts to climb and your city taxes rise and your grocery bill goes up again, it's not because the rich got greedier. It's because your mayor ran the investors, the jobs, and the tax base out of town. And the only thing that's left to tax then is you. Is this the part where I say, I hope you get everything that you voted for? I know I'm still getting everything I voted for. Pretty dang happy with everything I voted for. Anyways, this was fun. Have a day.
Mamdani swears he'll deliver without the revolutionary excess, citing Milwaukee's old sewer socialists who built parks and not gulags. Okay, fine. But scale that to New York City's $100+ billion budget beast amid a post-pandemic hangover of divided voters griping about services and sky-high living costs. And it's a recipe for disaster and a prime example of how history goes from rhyme turning to repeat. Trump's already dubbing him the little communist and floating National Guard threats, Cuomo's warning of a death knell, and JP Morgan, Chase, and Jamie Dimon put him on blast. But if Mamdani's tax the rich mirage chases Wall Street south, expect potholes to go unfilled, subways stalled, and bodegas boarded up. While the Swiss referendum's no vote, fingers crossed, reminds us voters, when pushed, reject the wrecking crew. The exact working families he pretends to defend via regressive sales taxes, crumbling services, and a gutted tax base will be the exact working families getting beat up by socialism's swinging bat. Post-World War II, high corporate taxes clocking in at a statutory 52% in the 1950s didn't magically build the middle class and golden age from 1945 to 1975. No, the real engines were post-war pent-up demand, America's unchallenged industrial monopoly, think Europe and Japan in ruins, massive public investments, GI Bill, interstate highways, 10% GDP defense spending, and strong unions at 35% density. Stock buybacks were illegal for 50 years due to the SEC rule, thus forcing reinvestment. But that was about preventing manipulation, not tax heroism. Capital mobility was lower under Bretton Woods, sure, but globalization was already accelerating post-1971 Nixon shock. And no data proves high corporate taxes cause GDP's 4% annual growth. EPI studies show zero correlation from 1947 to 2009. Simply put, corporate tax cuts delivered for the middle class, and the facts don't lie. The media and the left just like to ignore them. Reagan dropped 46% to 34%, 20 million jobs, 3.5% average growth. Bush tweaks and Clinton capital gains relief, 22 million more jobs. Trump slashed 35% to 21%, and we saw $1 trillion repatriated, $500 billion in expansions and wage hikes, record 3.5% unemployment pre-COVID with 16% real wage gains for the bottom 50%. Real wages stagnated, and for that, we can blame Clinton's NAFTA offshoring and union erosion, but not tax relief. And then CEO pay exploded 13,000%. Okay, then let's talk stock options and deregulations, yet millions climbed the ladder via tech booms. Rumors the middle class shrank were just that. And well, I don't know, maybe, you tell me. But home ownership peaked at 69% pre-crash. Median income rose 20%. With adjustments for inflation between 1980 and 2000. 401ks gave workers portable wealth until progressive inflation torched it. So who truly benefited during all this? Shareholders, including middle class and 401k investors like you and me. Tax savings fueled Apple's garage to giant leap, creating millions of jobs. Trickle-down failure, my arse. GDP averaged 3.5% post-Reagan versus 2.5% before, and inequality rose with success. People, rewarding innovations lifts everyone. Here's the reality. And if we axe bloated bureaucracy, slash overtime waste, offer targeted credits to keep businesses from leaving New York, progress can be made. But Mamdani's socialism is Detroit's rerun of bankrupt dreams and fleeing residents. NYC thrives on capitalism, not confiscation. I know it. You know it. Kathy Hochul knows it. Heck, Jimmy Carr knows it.
What do I think about what?
Ticketmaster.
What do I think about Ticketmaster? I like them. What's not to like about Ticketmaster?
As a purchaser?
As a purchaser? Yeah, you know you can not go to the show. I always think like Ticketmaster always get like given a hard time. People going, oh, it was £400 to see Taylor Swift. Well, don't go.
I wanted to come see you.
You wanted to come see me? It looks like you did great. I don't know, you might object to capitalism, and Ticketmaster are a very good example of the capitalist market. And capitalism is a terrible system apart from all the f***ing others. bunch of young people seem to have fallen in love with communism again. The f is going. Communism's a great idea, wrong species. Right? Thing about capitalism is it kind of leans into what we are. We're quite self-interested. It works. What's your name?
My name's Sam.
What do you do, Sam?
Define communism for me.
Define communism from each according to their abilities to each according to their needs. Yeah, it just doesn't scale. Everyone is a communist. All of you are communists with your family. If you've got kids, you're a f***ing communist at home. Each according to their needs, you take care of them. Of course you do. And as things get wide in your local community, you might be a socialist. Try and help everyone out. And then you get up to nation state level and you go, yeah, f*** those guys. There's always going to be an in-group preference. I'm sorry, but you human beings, unlucky. The problem with American communism, which is, woke, is better described as American Marxism. And what it is instead of trying to redistribute wealth, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to want to do, they want to redistribute status. And that is a recipe for madness. Hang on. Sorry. Some young men looking at me like, yeah, great. We're going to need some dick jokes. No problem. I'm on it. Don't think I'm not on it, fellas. I'm going to say some very offensive things in a bit.
And here we are, folks. Now having come full circle, and we shall conclude in the same manner in which we began this journey, in conversation down, around, and through the rabbit hole of truth. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the democratic socialists could not be further out of sync with the values of our communities. And I am convinced that socialism must be another word or a synonym for comedy. And I'm just imagining how funny it'll be and how hard New Yorkers and the rest of the country and the whole world, for that matter, will be laughing at the Muslim socialist and the look on his face when he is humiliated by what is to come. A complete and totally expected fail of his proposed communist agenda. It is going to be hilarious. But don't just take my word for it. I share with you the latest from the New York Post, where they have specifically written themselves. The Democratic Socialists could not be further out of sync with the values of communities on Staten Island. And I'd argue that this time around, Democrats won't want to stop the borough's secession because it would make it even less likely NYC ever elects a Republican mayor again. And not only that, but State Senator Andrew Lanza said he plans to put the foot to the pedal on the plan in January. At its core, this headline captures regional resentment boiling over after a polarizing election. Staten Island, population 500,000, 58 square miles of green space, has long chafed at being lumped into the world's most democratic city and Mamdani's socialist-leaning platform. Think rent freezes, green jobs, and defunding certain police units. Feels like a breaking point for a borough that went red in recent presidential races, and maybe a great way to also break away from Pete Davidson. But let's be real here. Who's putting any weight into or taking political advice from Kim K's ex?
So anyway, we just had an election, and if you don't mind, I have a message for everyone who did not vote for our new mayor. Hey, Staten Islanders! Did you promise to move out of New York if Mamdani won, but have too many warrants in New Jersey and not enough guns for Florida? Well, welcome to New Staten Island. Yeah. It'll have everything that makes Staten Island great. The pizza.
Wait, that was the whole list?
Yep. New Staten Island. We can't call it the Titanic anymore, since the people on this ship will actually love running into ice. That was pretty good. Yep. Still got it.
I just feel like it's going to be a big year for us.
I think so, too. I couldn't be more excited. And my point is, look, the ferry, it's fine. sometimes the news just makes things seem worse than they are. You know, like how everyone was sure certain people would be exposed and ruined for being on the Epstein list, right? But look, it's 2025 and all three of us are still up here.
Over 80% of the New Yorkers who voted for Mamdani did so for all the free stuff he promised. But boy, oh boy, are they going to be pissed when they find out he lied. But if Staten Island secedes, it would become New York State's second largest city, behind only NYC itself and ahead of Buffalo. And so it begins. Mass exodus and fleeing New York and Mamdani and socialism's grasp in any way possible. But not all can afford the luxury, and so they begin to prepare. And New Yorkers rush to the gun store after Mamdani win. And so you see, the morning after Zohran Mamdani's victory, gun shops across the Big Apple were flooded with first-timers looking to get armed fast. Gun instructors say demand is sky high, with classes packed and ammo flying off the shelves. One Brooklyn shop owner called it doomsday prepping, noting that everyone from lawyers to plumbers were more eager than ever to get a history lesson on Smith & Wesson. And with NYPD resignations spiking 35% last month, they might be right to worry about who's left to protect them. And again, just a quick reminder for anyone watching and or listening from New York, or if you have family, friends, and relatives trapped in the city. But Mamdani promised to redistribute wealth. And it looks like a lot of New Yorkers are saying, come and get it. And you'll have to pry it from their cold, dead fingers. And so let the rebellion begin. The list is growing, and it isn't just John Voight who's concerned about the socialist crap city fate with Mamdani and says only President Trump can stop this horror.
The mayor that has taken over New York City is a Muslim that's going to take down the city that never sleeps, the city of life's dreams, this city that our ancestors brought forth in prosperity and greatness and liberty. This city will turn into a forbidden place of darkness. The blood, sweat, and tears that the city of New York was built on will turn into a virtual refugee shelter for the radical Muslim ideology. This is now the most dangerous time for our citizens of New York. This mayor will destroy this city. We are obligated to demand our rights for our private sanctuary, our businesses, our property that we all have worked so hard for. And this 35-year-old mayor has no right dictating the rules of socialism for a city built on our highest principles with brick and stone by hardworking Americans. This must be stopped, and his mayoralty should be terminated immediately. You, the people of the greatest city, New York, are in danger of losing your city to this communist fool. We, the people, must stand for the greatest nation's purpose, the honor of our flag, the red, white, and blue, and for which it stands, one nation under God, and liberty and justice for all. This country, the United States of America, is the land of our greatest achievement, the American dream. And we, the people, have put our trust in the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. He and only he can stop this horror, as this Mayor Mamdani will try to destroy New York's wealth and turn it into a socialist crap city. Let this be a warning to the people. And may God bless. May God bless.
New York City Republicans will have to strategize over the next 4 years, building alliances with council members to oppose Mamdani at every turn. But I understand this is a tough task, given that many of those council members are progressives in nature. And look, folks, I know the headlines out of New York City are tough right now. Zohran Mamdani's victory in the mayoral race has uneducated, ill-advised, Kool-Aid drinking progressives cheering and all, while the rest of us are getting prepared and should be bracing for more of that failed socialist playbook that we've seen crash and burn time and time again. Come January 1, it'll be a wild ride with policies that prioritize government overreach over the hardworking families who actually keep this city humming. policy dreams and empty campaign promises that lack the necessary funding from billionaires and corporations. And so then, well, Mamdani's socialist cobra snake will set its eyes on the voters for and against his idiotic regime as he looks to sink his fangs in and bleed them all dry. Don't become paralyzed by the idea of his poisonous venom. There's hope for a better tomorrow and prosperous future. And here's the truth that puts a real smile on my face, and I hope it does the same for you. We'll push back at every turn, expose the chaos, and remind everyone that socialism doesn't build wealth. It just redistributes the pain. And let's not forget the deflection game that they're playing, dragging out old ghosts like Jeffrey Epstein to distract from the absolute triumph unfolding under President Trump's America First agenda. And that's not just Democrats, but some from within the Republican Party, the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene. But, some Republicans are in name only. And you all know why this is happening. They're scrambling because they've lost every lever of power we voted them out of. And now they're willing to tank the entire U.S. economy just to sow doubt in Trump's second term. Self-harm is absolutely what they want to do and will go to the end of the earth, it seems, just to undermine DJT. The shutdown was their weapon of choice, but 8 brave Democrats crossed the aisle to fund the government without the filibuster drama. Good on them, but the economic sabotage is still underway and unacceptable. And yes, the Senate could go nuclear, straight line it, and get back to delivering for the people, not the party in free fall. But here's where the hope lights up, like Times Square on New Year's Eve. And this is real news, folks, not that fake shit that CNN and Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon like to air.
Point is, I think we all agree on a lot of things. And since I only have a minute left live on establishment media, why don't we just say a bunch of things that we know that they'll never cover? Okay, ready, go. Trump Jr. didn't have any silverware in his house. No one thought that was weird? Are we still rolling? Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia put money into Disney, so just know there won't be any girl characters in the next Cars movie. Are we still rolling? This is wild. Why have so many presidents' chefs died? Weird. Boy Scout of America, they renamed itself Scouting America. You know who else changed their name? Sean Combs. Just saying. Let's learn something in 2025. I can't believe you guys are still letting me go. This is amazing. I love CNN. Please stop me, Andy, because I will just keep going.
Happy New Year, Whitney Cummings.
Am I still streaming?
Yes.
This is amazing.
But despite their chaos, our team is locked and loaded for a comeback that could make our 2026 wallets and bank accounts and investment portfolios very happy.
I'm 100% with the president. The Senate should go straight and forget the filibuster, and Republicans should vote to fund the government without the Democrats. I'm very happy to see 8 brave Democrats came across, but this economic damage is unacceptable. They call it self-harm. They were willing to harm the economy of the United States to benefit a party in chaos.
Yeah. Well, they want to have chaos in President Trump's term.
They're using Jeffrey Epstein as a deflection from the tremendous success that we're having.
And so, folks, that's absolutely right. The Democrats have pretty much lost control of every single lever of power within the country because we all voted them out, by the way. And so now they're just trying to crash the economy in order to undermine President Trump's America First agenda.
Yes, this is optimism, folks. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just laid it out crystal clear. We're bending that inflation curve down hard, and real incomes are about to accelerate like a bull market on steroids. In the first and second quarters of 2026, Americans are going to feel it. Higher take-home pay, lower costs, and that surge of prosperity hitting Main Street as hard as it does Wall Street.
I think we are going to see a substantial acceleration in the economy in the second quarter, and I think we are also we're already seeing on many prices. As I said, we're bending that curve down, and the increase in real incomes. I think Americans are going to feel it in the first quarter, second quarter. I think 2026. thanks to President Trump's signature plans, is going to be a great year for working Americans, for the markets. You know, I call it parallel prosperity. Main Street and Wall Street can both do great, but I think Main Street's going to have a great year in 2026.
It's being called parallel prosperity, where everyone wins when the markets roar and working families thrive. And listen up, because even if you and your family feel stuck and trapped in a city barreling toward big government experiments, stick with me and stay locked in. Here's where we'll show you how federal wins trickle down to personal gains. Tax cuts, deregulation, pro-growth trade. It's all fueling a new economic golden age with expectations of growth north of 3% by this time next year. Obviously, there's no guarantees, but come 2026, you should ask yourself, is it going to be the year for you? For us? For every red-blooded American betting on freedom over failure? New Yorkers, especially you Republicans holding the line in the Big Apple, hang in there. Our biggest city's too tough, too innovative to let a failed ideology dim its shine. Wall Street? Yeah, it'll coexist, adapt, and outperform because capitalism doesn't quit, and neither do you. And to all my subscribers, whether you're dodging potholes in Queens, Bronx, Brooklyn, or wherever, or cheering from your couch, or while you're at work, or driving your car listening to my podcast, or watching my videos on TV, I want you all to make some noise so that we can see my channel count climb higher and higher, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't, especially if you like my videos, find value in the information I share, the research I've done, and the insights I present, and or just enjoy the chats and want to keep the conversations going. Thank you all for spending the time with me and bearing with me to compile and complete the work that I do for you. And I look forward to hearing from you all, and I can't wait to read all your comments. I hope you all have a great start to the week. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And remember, together we are unstoppable. Take care, stay safe out there, and God bless.